What I wanted to talk about tonight was what is Gnosticism? What is esoteric Christianity? And what are the initiations? And we're going to do that in what remains of an hour. What time it is. Okay. Gnosticism is based on the root word Gnostic, which is based on the root word gnosis, the Greek word gnosis, G-N-O-S-I-S. Gnosis means to know through direct experience. Not knowing intellectually, not studying something, but having a direct experience that is knowing. It's more than that, because you are gnosis. You are gnosis. It can be substituted for the word self, Atman. The God being. Okay. And so Gnostics are those who are striving to discover their union with that divine being, who they are. That's all that it is. People have made religions out of that have been called Gnosticism. And there are a variety of flavors of that, with different kinds of bells and whistles and whatnot. But ultimately, that's what it is. It's those who are dedicated to following the way that leads to union with the God being that they are. Okay? The discovery of who we are. And there's an assumption in that we don't know who we are yet. That's why we're seeking to follow this path that will lead us to the discovery and the experience of who we are. Okay. The inkling that we have, that we may not actually know who we are, is the most wonderful first step in creation. It's like they say about alcoholism or addictions of one kind or another, admitting it is the first step, Admitting that you don't know who you are is the most wondrous of discoveries, because most of the time we're taught from cradle on about what to think about ourselves and who we are. Okay? And the very matter of earth in which we live and reside, and which comprises our bodies, speaks to us about who we are. And it says, don't look any further than appearances, because the appearances is all that exists. Seeing is believing there is nothing beyond this. You are nothing other than your body. Even if we want to believe that when we die we're going to go somewhere, it's kind of a materialistic kind of a concept for us. And like any concept, it has to die, it has to go. And the first step in that is the inkling that, you know what, I wonder if there's more. Okay? That's the beginnings of what is known as the awakening. Again, we're keeping gnosis as the goal here of what it is that this is leading towards. We're asleep, wham, we slap ourselves across the face some way or another, or life will set it up for us to have that experience, and we are jolted into the discovery that, oh man, there might be more than I thought. What could that be? Okay. The fact that you're sitting here indicates that that has already been crossed. That threshold has already been crossed. That's called the first threshold in the stages of initiation. What is initiation? Initiation is the sequential, step-by-step stages that a soul moves through, that every soul moves through in its rediscovery of union with the One. Until that, we were lost souls. You've heard that term, lost souls? We don't know who we are. And I'm not just talking about, okay, when you die, okay, then now you're a soul, and then that soul knows everything. I'll go, oh, I'm floating and I'm part of God. And the consciousness of that reality of union, of who you are that you have now, is the consciousness that you will have when you drop your body. You'll have a little bit of a shift to go through, because you will definitely realize that you weren't that body, because that body's still laying there on the floor where it fell. But you're not going to just magically discover union with God, samadhi, nirvana, whatever you want to call it. And that's why this is an important journey that we take. Because after thousands of incarnations, okay, lifetime after lifetime of having this opportunity to discover who we are and to have our fill of earth experiences until we're so satiated that we can finally say, you know, I pretty much played that one out. I wonder if there's anything else. Is there anything more than this? Until that happens, we're still stuck in this cycle of needing to come back, needing to have those repeat experiences that will finally drive us to that point of letting go and saying, I hope that there's something else, because I can't take it anymore. Because I don't believe this is it anymore. As a matter of fact, I'm starting to get a sense of something else. I don't know what that is, but I'm open to it. Okay. And as we let go and open ourselves to that potential out there, we begin to align ourselves with vibrations of consciousness that are of a finer or more refined nature. They aren't external to us. They're in us, around us, through us. They've always been there. We don't have to make them up. We don't have to project them or imagine them. They're just there. But now we're starting to tune into it. And it's like having a radio receiver and you're turning in the dial to tune into a certain station, and the station was already there. That music was playing all along. You just couldn't hear it because you weren't dialed into that particular frequency. And because you start opening yourself up and stop being so darn certain about everything and about who you are and what life is and every darn little part of it, that opens it up so that the dial can start to tune in to these other things and you become aware. That's all it takes. That little crack in the shell and light starts coming in. And I mean that quite literally. It's not figurative. Light starts coming in. Where does it come in from? It comes in from on high. What does that mean? The light that is in the very core of your being, that is you, that is Christ, that is the Son of God, radiates into your body or bodies and atmosphere. That's where on high is. It's not in the sky on high, it's inside on high. The kingdom of God is within. And all it takes is that we let go and make the room for that to start to happen, and it will. The more that starts to happen and we can feel it and acknowledge that, and we're using our finer senses then to perceive that movement, the more rapidly it begins to expand. We have our five senses and we have what's known as the sixth sense. The sixth sense is truly intuition. That's all that you need to call it. You don't have to say, well, it's visual, it's sight, it's hearing, it's this. It's an intuitive level. Okay? And you start to intuit and feel this expansion of light that is taking place in you, and the accompanying presence that it conveys. Because light is not just a high form of energy vibrating at a frequency in the ocular range. You know, it's that, right? But it's the substance of the mind of God. It's imbued with the presence and the personality of the Creator. And it lives in you because that's all that you are. You don't have to do anything except feel it and let it happen. Let it be. Let it grow in you. As that starts to become real to you and you start to perceive it, you close your eyes and you see that light within, and you can start to look within that field of light for the source of light, and you move towards that source of light. That's crossing into the second chamber, the second threshold of initiation. The first one was awakening, that first step. That, whoop, there's more to life than I thought. Okay? The second is now the result of that first step, and this movement that starts to take you deeper and deeper within. deeper into the realm of intuition and that subtle feeling and the experience then of this, the kingdom of God within. It's at this realm that illumination and self-realization take place. This is not a philosophy, I'm telling you. Okay? I'm telling you what exists in the cosmic path that we know as the way. There's nobody that's exempt from it. It has nothing to do with religion. It has nothing to do with anything than the awakening of a soul as it begins to discover its reunion with the Creator. Okay. Esoteric Christianity embraces Jesus as the master teacher who came to earth after untold lifetimes of preparation, in preparation for this specific mission, and who was able to become then the embodiment of the cosmic Christ, the Son, the Lord of the Sun. That's the S-U-N, Son, the Lord of the Sun, light. Okay, we're talking about creation now, as opposed to going within and seeing the subtle spiritual sun. Everything is manifest as above, so below. Can't get away from that either. So that's what Jesus did. He became the Christ. The Christ was able to reside on earth through the vehicle of this highly evolved master teacher and teach in a way, through word and action, that etched into the substance of the planet, into the molecular structure of Earth, the path home. Through the living symbolism of the birth, the crucifixion, and the resurrection. Okay. That's the sum total. Now you got it. That's what esoteric Christianity is. That's what Gnosticism is. Okay. And that's what initiation is. There are people who talk about esoteric Christianity and they've made it into another ism. Just like Gnosticism, Catholicism, Protestantism, Buddhism, Hinduism, right? All those isms. Judaism. The way has nothing to do with any of those and has everything to do with all of them. So many are called, but few are chosen. Not because there's a capricious God that says, yeah, I know I called you, but I'm not going to choose you, I'll choose you instead. It's your choice. You're the chooser, you know, the decider. Right? And we make that choice. Yes, I'm ready to give it up here. I don't want to keep playing this game. If this is an illusion, doggone it, wake me up. If I'm asleep, wake me up. If there's something in this room with us now that I don't see, doggone it, let me see it. Let me wake up. Why not? You see, we have to get to that point. But that's the whole thing about if you love your life in this world, you'll lose it. But if you lose your life, you'll find it. You really have to get to a point where you're saying, I'm really done with this. I've tried it. I've tried money. I've tried, whatever, fame, fortune, definitions of love. Various definitions of things. I've done it lifetime after lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. And you know what? Deja vu all over again. How many times can I see the same thing before I say, you know what, if this is it, I want off the merry-go-round. It's in that moment that you start to wake up. And your own soul brings you to that moment. Ultimately, it will bring every soul to that moment. Which is why I keep saying that our lives, seen from the viewpoint of our own souls, looks a lot different than it does from this body, this mind, this particular finite incarnation. We want to protect ourselves from pain, and we want to protect ourselves from anguish and from being destitute or whatever it is. We want to smooth that path out for ourselves. But ultimately, the soul came here for one reason. Bring it on! I want to taste of the fullness of life's experience, and I want it to tear me apart. The soul doesn't want to be doing that. As a soul, we don't want to be horsing around. Okay. So as you follow the way, and you start to discover this inner reality that is meaningful and powerful and tender and raw. It's unpredictable. It blows where it wants to and goes where it wants to. There's no rhyme or reason to it. It just is. The very moment that we start to have those experiences on the way, we become beacons unto others. Now, there's nothing that a teacher or a guru or anybody can do to you that's going to make you have these experiences. I should say, there is the possibility for somebody to project to you an experience that you will have that might knock you off your feet. But it's BS. Because it's a projection of another person's reality. It's a form of like hypnotism. This is a path of liberation. So you discover your own way in and your own being. Liberation. But what a teacher or a a guru, or anybody who is following the way and is starting to wake up does for other people is help to provide for them an environment in which they can discover the abilities that they have inherent in them to perform the inner alchemy necessary to transmute lead into gold, into spiritual gold, the base metals of their life into spiritual gold, to discover the Christ in them we were talking earlier about. How do you find Christ? How do you find the Master sleeping in the back of the ship? You know, certainly not by reading about it, certainly not by believing in it. That's pretty shallow, that's pretty fleeting, right? Comes and goes. I believe, I don't believe. You know, there's certain things that you experience that you can't say that about. An experience that's that real is what we're talking about here. Then. And the rest of it is all nonsense. Window dressing. So, I had a teacher who said that, you know, and I could read the San Francisco Yellow Pages to you and bring you into realization. It's not the class material. It's not the words themselves. It's the consciousness that this individual was able to have, that we basked in, and that allowed the babe within us to leap within our own wombs and declare itself to our outer consciousness. Okay. That's what you want to be for others, is that field of consciousness. Well, you're already doing that. But what field of consciousness are you being for others? Which field? You know, what fills your atmosphere? Our habitual thinking and desires fill our atmosphere. Our opinions, our sense of self, our own worldview fills our atmosphere and declares to others who we are, and is our living prayer for them to be just the same. I'm a flawed man. Okay. It's okay for you to be flawed too. That's true and it's not true. We want to find the part where it's not true. There's a part of you that is the only part of you, really, that is not flawed. It couldn't be flawed. It has never been anything but pure spirit, pure light, pure consciousness, that has never incarnated, knows nothing but the bliss of union. As that light grows in us, it shakes things up. It starts rattling us to the core. If it doesn't, then we're not, it's not happening yet. Okay? Because we allowed a little crack, a fissure, to appear in our hard shell by saying, I don't know who I am, I'm really open to the discovery, and with that the light starts to flood in, and we start to feel that that elevation of awareness. That's what consciousness is. It's awareness. What are we aware of? People talk about raising our consciousness. It's really becoming aware of more. That's all that means. How are you aware of this? Or are you aware of this? Or are you aware of this? And to go Zen on you, the way to get really, really big is to get really, really small, right? To get so tiny, to go within so deep, to stop being this and stop being that, to be no thing, right? It can't get smaller than to being no thing. That's when we begin to have the experience then of that light shaking up our world, and the body begins to feel the impact of that. If the body is not being impacted, and I'm talking about your physical body here, if it's not being impacted by the light, then something's not connected. The illumination takes place first in your spiritual body, which is the electromagnetic matrix upon which your physical body is hung. A body of light. And it extends through the nucleus of every cell into your physical form. And this is the creation of the new bottle to hold new wine. You can't pour new wine into an old bottle, right? The body gets reformed. It becomes different. A different tool. And so you cleanse and you sneeze and you blow your nose and you do the various things that you're going to go through. That'll happen. Every time you get closer to the fire, you feel the heat. The light has two components to it. And one of those is fire, is heat. The light has heat. Okay? We keep talking about light, and that light is the life of men. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God, right? The light was the life of men. That's all that we need to know right there. Light is the very essence of life. It's that which vivifies, makes things alive. Everything is alive, therefore everything has light. Or conversely, everything has light, therefore everything is alive. Okay. And because everything has light and is alive, everything's on fire. The universe is aflame. That's why our bodies have a temperature of 98.6. It's why everything has a radiant heat signature to it. They haven't yet achieved the ability to still what they call Brownian movement of molecules, the vibration of molecules. That gets slower and slower the closer it gets to absolute zero in temperature. You turn the temperature down, the colder it gets, the slower it becomes, True absolute zero can't happen because it would be the absence of light, of life, of energy. They can get as close as you want to that. Everything's vibrating. And it's vibrating, and when things vibrate, they're emitting heat. That's the way that is. You may not experience it as heat relative to where you are at on that vibrational spectrum. But if you moved yourself on another place in that vibrational spectrum, you'd say, whoa, that ice cube is cooking hot. Everything's alive, everything is heat, everything's on fire. So the first destruction of Earth was by water, the flood, they said, right? But the second will be by fire. The destruction of Earth seems like an awful thing, and we really don't want to contemplate it. We have all these movies that we can refer back to about post-apocalyptic times and whatnot. But really what we're talking about is the destruction of the paradigm that teaches that this level of vibration is all that exists. That the physical world, the physical body is all that exists. It's such a limited viewpoint on a spectrum that extends from infinity to infinity. We have this narrow little slice of bandwidth on that we call physical world, Earth. Not just Earth as a planet, but Earth as the stars that we see, the planets that are out there, everything in the visible universe to us exists in this little tiny bandwidth, on a bandwidth that extends from infinity to infinity. And to wake up from that illusion, pretty good thing, don't you think? Right? So that's what they're touching on quantum physics, and they're touching in various ways. There people are sensing, things. We get a little bit of a buzz because there's something that starts to impinge on our field of experience, our senses, that wasn't quite there before, and we say, ooh, I'm getting high, and I feel another person that's out there, and I can feel another world, and I can see things, and it's still just a little tiny bandwidth. As huge as that little bandwidth is. And it itself is infinite. Okay? Yeah. It's mind-boggling. We live in an infinite universe that is just a tiny slice of bandwidth. Okay. That's creation. Okay. There is that which is beyond creation. In the beginning was the Word. What was before the beginning? How does that feel? What is that? That's not something that we need to theorize about. That's something that you want to experience, because that's where this thing becomes real. This is where the rubber meets the road for you. That, then, is realization. The discovery of that. The source of all that is. That, then, is Gnosis. And you are then a true Gnostic. Whether you know the secret handshakes and languages or not, it doesn't matter. Okay. I felt compelled to talk about this tonight because I want to make sure that everybody's aware of what it is that we're doing here. Why are we bothering to have classes and these services and do this whole rigmarole? And it's just for one reason only. So that you can light up in a way that you haven't yet. That you can wake up in a way that you haven't yet. And that you can become a servant to help others light up and wake up in a way that you haven't yet. So that you can ascend Jacob's ladder, grabbing onto the hand that's extended to you from the rung above, and at the same time reach out and allow somebody to grab your hand, and in that connection, it flows. It can't stop with you. You can't be the terminus point of this process. Nothing will happen. That's the big mystery of the whole thing. Okay. Can you get a sense? Can you feel it? I'm talking about? It takes a lot of guts to actually do this thing. Because you're facing the demons of your own creation. And the attendant illusions of who you are. And that's scary. To discover that you're none of those things, and to have them, the rug pulled out from under you, and again, and again, and again, and not have a comfortable place to settle in. The Son of Man hath nowhere to lay his head. You can't just settle in and get cozy and say, this is a comfortable level for me to be at. The minute that happens, you've gone to sleep again. That fast. This is why Paul said, I die daily. And continue to wake up, wake up, wake up, let it go. Discover it anew, every time anew, over and over again. You're not today what you were yesterday. You're not in this moment what you were the moment before. The moment before doesn't even exist. Okay. So that's why they say, be here now. This is it. That's why we keep hearing that. Mindfulness training. Okay. This is it. Bring it in closer and closer into the moment. That's what allows us to penetrate through that veil of illusion. So, in this path of esoteric Christianity, we have certain tools that we use to help people move through these chambers, to help them move through the process, and one of them is the baptism. And so we baptize people Whether they've been baptized before or not, doesn't matter. It's not that kind of a baptism. You're not baptized into a church. You're baptized into the greater body of the host of initiates, known as the Great White Brotherhood. This, that exists primarily on the other side, what we call the other side. It's your moment to declare then, yes, I want to do this thing. I want to do this thing. Will you help me? And it's a formalization of that. And there's a formalization of acceptance in that, and connection that takes you then under the guidance of, and the wing of those above. And helps to escort you through this process that ultimately will bring you home. We have vows. There are 5 vows that we take. We take them to God, to the God in us, to our own God being that we are. And tell them what the vows are. What are the 5 vows?
Let's see. You have purity, poverty, humility. They put me on the spot now. I can't remember the other two.
Obedience,
Obedience
and service.
service.
Humility, purity, poverty, obedience, and service. These are 5 vows. They correspond to the 5 senses. These are our declarations that we are going to bring our sensual self, the sense bodies, into alignment with our desire to follow the way. They become not only a force in our lives that compels us to rise to those ideals, but they become a blessing in our lives that helps us to actually achieve those ideals. Okay. There's the communion that we have, wherein we're partaking of the very essence of this experience of Christ in man, in earth, that has been laid out before us by the Christ Jesus. And it's like having a little drop of light placed in your mouth that begins to, okay, I speak not metaphorically, okay. It's a huge blessing. And it's a tool that helps thin the veil that separates your outer consciousness from the inner self. You've heard of the rending of the veil in self-realization. You know, this is the veil. That veil is actually thinned over time, over lifetimes, becomes more translucent and transparent and allows more of the light of the being to radiate and be known. Okay. And at the point then, it's torn away. The remnants of it are just, you wouldn't want to do that too early, because wouldn't that be a shock? But after having years and perhaps lifetimes of having this influence, presence in your life. We can do that, and it's not going to knock you over and make you go insane, which is another story. You can't storm the gates of heaven, especially not in this age. We can do Kundalini breathing exercises, we can do certain things, breath of fire, get the thing going, and jack it up and blast through things. And you want to do this in a safe, sane way, and there's a way to do that. That we might call storming the gates of heaven. Okay. And as tempting as having those kinds of experiences can be, some of us are of an age when we remember the 60s and the efforts that went into self-discovery through the use of hallucinogens. Okay? Again, storming the gates of heaven. Blast your way through. You know? Boy, it did. Charred open the chakras, boom, all that would happen, and made some people pretty loopy. Some people didn't do so well with that, and it didn't stick either. It's the other side of that. But that door can slam shut. Refraining from filling your atmospheres with things of a denser vibration is another thing that helps in this journey. What do you dwell on? What do you give life to? Is the world a beautiful place, or does it suck? Is it evil? Is it filled with pain and anguish? When we pick up a newspaper, if anybody knows what a newspaper is, people who never know newspapers won't be wrong. What's the first thing that jumps out at your eye? What do you see first? The headlines of disaster, or something else that might be a human interest sort of somebody that did really good things? Not that there's a lot of people writing that stuff, I suppose, but that's what I'm talking about. What is it that where's our focus on things? Because what you see is what you get, and what you get is what you become. Fill your atmosphere with a certain vibration, draws more of the same to it. Can't help but do it. So what vibration do you want to fill your atmosphere with? Light. How do you do it? Open yourself up to that potential. Stop trying to be anything. Let the experience come to you. And find where your inspiration is guiding you. Where are you being led? If you feel that you're being inspired here, great. Work what we give you here. If you feel that you're being inspired by something else, anything else, you are responsible to your own self to follow that inspiration. You've got to. That's what the vow of obedience is we're talking about here. To be obedient to your own self. Your own self is always talking to you. And in the first stages of this experience, that's the way it sounds. Like there's you and the self. And the self talks to you. That's the first stages of getting in touch with your own being, because you're still fragmented. Okay? So listen, feel. Use your senses to feel. And if your senses aren't sensitive enough to feel, then figure out why. What are you dulling them with? Okay, and getting back to that earlier conversation again. Do we have the music jacked up so loud that our ears can no longer hear the finer subtler notes of things. And what kinds of music, what kind of things do we have in our lives that we turn the volume up on? Obviously, I'm not just talking about music that comes out of a radio or something. I'm talking about everything in life. We have the ability to turn up the volume on or turn it down and listen for the subtler, more refined things, the subtler undercurrents that are there. Because that's the world that exists within.